All right. Hello, everybody. We are back again with a very special person. He goes by the name of Corey Gil-Shuster. Hope I said the last name correctly. Before I used to say it incorrectly. How you doing, Corey? What's going on?
I'm okay. Good to hear from you. Good to talk to you. We know each
Yeah,
other.
absolutely. Where are
We
we
deal in
finding you?
business.
Where are you at right now?
I'm at home.
Home is in
Oh, in Tel Aviv. I live in Tel Aviv, Israel.
beautiful,
Uh, Center of Tel Aviv.
wonderful. Let's start off with a little backstory. I know Corey. I went to Tel Aviv University, and he really facilitated the process, helped everything go smoothly. It was running. He's the director of the Conflict Resolution and Mediation program. We've been in touch for the past 2 years now, and seems to be a lifelong friendship. And can't wait to see where it goes. But let's go a little with you. What's
You,
uh
you,
what's
you,
what's
you helped me through the my Corona
oh
stage
man, oh
when things
yeah.
were
I
really
mean,
bad.
right. No, it
You
was it
gave
was
me
a
ideas on what to watch, and we talked about Community
we
and
did
other
we
TV
did.
shows.
And what's funny is I recommended that show to my brother, and he was like, I don't know about this. But I told him, no. The person who recommended it, he also watches Frasier. So trust me, I mean, he has good taste. And they said, all right. And my brother blew through the series. He just thought
Yeah,
incredible writing.
brilliant.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go a little more with you. What's Corey's backstory? What got you to where you are now in Tel Aviv and doing what you're doing?
I'm from Ottawa, Canada. I'm Canadian. I grew up there and in a very boring city. I came to Israel kind of more on a dare than anything else from a
Oh.
friend, and went to Tel Aviv University for the first semester of university. And I kind of had a love-hate relationship with this place ever since. It's really interesting. It's chaotic. It's nothing. It's very Middle Eastern from a Canadian point of view. I have friends who are Lebanese who have been here, and they say it seems a little European to them, but
Hmm.
it's somewhere in between. And I decided to figure out how to move here. And then I ended up meeting the guy who became my husband, who was Israeli. And I moved here to Israel. At a certain point, we left during the second Intifada. It got to be really stressful. There were
Hmm.
bombings every day, and it was really stressful. And we weren't living in Tel Aviv. We were living in a suburb, and we had just adopted a child. And I said, "Look, I'm Canadian. This is too much for me." So we left
Hmm.
and went to Canada, and that sparked the idea of finding a program in conflict resolution. And I didn't even know the phrase conflict resolution, so I looked for psychology of conflict because I wanted to
Hmm.
understand what I experienced, not just about the Intifada, but the Palestinians and their relation to Israelis, but even within Israeli society, to have an understanding of why do people act the way they act, why do they think the way they think, why the things that I heard, nothing to do with Palestinians, even within their own country, how do they frame what's going on? And I wanted
Hmm.
something to help explain that, and I found at University of Ottawa a program, a master's in conflict studies, and it really helped. And I
Hmm.
wrote my thesis on dialogue groups between Arabs and Jews and Israelis and Palestinians, and then ended up moving back. Actually, I finished my thesis while I was here, and I got a job at Tel Aviv University running the conflict resolution program. So,
Hmm.
um, also the other reason I'm here, it's not just because that I looked for something to do where my contribution to understanding conflict and I started a YouTube project called Ask an Israeli, Ask a Palestinian, where people send in questions where they want to know what do Israelis think. What does the average Israeli or the average Palestinian think about a particular topic? And I go out to the streets and ask people, random people. And Bruce was with me when we did that.
We had an interesting encounters. Yes,
Yes,
that's right.
interesting encounters. I got spat on by some 15-year-old. Yeah, that was lovely.
And the
Um,
one who also the one who also coughed, I think, in your direction.
yeah,
You know, over.
he
Yeah,
coughed on purpose because he
yeah.
was
It's
15-year-old who was being a dick, and it was the beginning of COVID, and
right.
he thought that's really funny, and yeah,
Mm.
Middle East.
Wow.
Um, so that's it. And the purpose of the project is really to help people outside and even Israelis and Palestinians have an understanding of what people here think about a particular topic. It's not from what the leaders say, it's not what the religion says, it's not what some book says. It's based on what do people here think
Mm.
about what is going on, and it's um, through asking a question, you limit what we can talk about in like 2 to 3 minutes, because that's, I can only ask, 8 to 10 people for 2 to 3 minutes. So you don't get, by watching one video, you're not going to understand the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but you get a sense of what each side thinks about their reality. And that's the purpose.
Powerful. And this idea, I wonder how it would even resonate in just other countries with other conflicts and stuff like that. Maybe if even in the US we had one where the Ask Project in America, right?
Yep.
Asking, let's say, people on maybe different sides of the aisle or different groups in conflict and seeing how they could resonate.
Yep.
What are a couple experiences that you've had with this where one was just absolutely rewarding and the other one was absolutely demoralizing, if we can think of two, or maybe one of the worst ones. Yeah,
I might define rewarding differently, because I'm thinking what would capture what I experience here after 20 something years. So the one that's coming to mind is speaking to some random woman on the light rail, about asking her about, I don't even remember the question was, why are the Arabs more polite than the Jews of this region, right? I don't mean all Jews, all Arabs. I mean people here.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting because I actually think that's kind of true, but and for reasons that nobody gave, but that's my own opinion. Everyone got very offended by the question, and she not only got offended, but then said something about how her child was killed in a terror attack. And I went, whoa! Like, I did not expect that. It was not a setup. It was not. And I don't know if it's rewarding. Rewarding is not the right word, but it was emotional and impactful, because I'm dealing with it like in this, like, but hey, come on, and then somebody says something, drops a little bomb on you, that you're like, wow, okay, that drives home why people are really angry. So I'd say it's more impactful. And what was the other category?
So one that didn't go so well, right? Because you're also interacting with people who could be hostile to any communication.
Yeah. A lot of times people will just mid-sentence walk away because they think they're being set up. Because there is that aspect here, both on the Israeli and Palestinian side, of people who come in with a political agenda and they want to embarrass both sides, or one side. Sorry, I want to dig, so people interpret that and ask tough questions. So people interpret that as me trying to embarrass them. So I've had a lot of experience where, like, mid-sentence, they would say, "I don't want to do this anymore," and they just walk away. It doesn't bother me. I've been with people who got very like, whoa, what, are you okay with that? Like, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm used to it. First of all, it happens in private life all the time. So it's not like it's not just because they're on camera, but that is an added reason for them to feel a bit threatened. But that's the more typical. It doesn't happen that often, by the way, that sort of reaction. I think in their minds it does. I mean, they feel defensive, but they just carry on.
So they'll feel defensive, but they'll sort of just continue, because people also do want to share their opinions. And when you have a camera and someone asking you, and it sort of breaks the norm, right? Like you were saying, instead of just listening to what the media is telling you, or what's according to a religion or a book, you speak to the actual person and see where they're coming from.
That's right.
Have an idea. Yeah, definitely we could use that a lot in the States. Maybe
we'll have I don't own the idea of going out with a camera and asking people questions. So
no, for sure.
That's right. I would love people to give some credit to the channel, but that's about it. That's okay.
Right. Well, what's incredible is, before I even went to Tel Aviv University or even found out about the conflict program, I was learning more about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and just to learn. And I saw your videos, the Ask Project, and I'd watched a bunch of them. So then later on, I think maybe somewhere in the conversation, after a few of our conversations, I saw Corey Gil-Shuster and thought, wait, what? This is the same guy? No way. And it really bridged the gap, because I said, wait, this isn't what I'm normally hearing. And to get a perspective from people on the ground and people who had to actually deal with it, instead of someone saying, oh, that's so sad, we should do this, they should do that. Okay, see ya. But what about the people who are living there and each day experiencing it? It's a whole different game.
But yeah, and I started it also because people have these conversations outside. I mean, not everyone really cares about this conflict, but there's a good amount of people around the world who seem to focus on this conflict, and they all have their ideas about what either should happen or what people think. And I think most of them are. It's not that they're entirely wrong. It's just they only have a little sliver of what they think is happening, and that part is probably true, but it's only part of it. So And if you want to solve a conflict, you need to understand what the conflict is about, because how can you possibly solve anything if you don't understand what it's about? So not that I think this is solvable at the moment, but potentially it is. It just it's complicated.
All right. There's definitely a lot going on, and if you don't know where the conflict is or what the problem is, you can't really begin. And that's with ourselves and with other people in general as well.
Yeah, I'd say that's true everywhere. I don't know what's going on in Cyprus exactly. I know the basics. I couldn't, I can have an opinion that Turkey's wrong and the Greeks are right. It just, based on the side that I'm on here, but I don't know if that's true. I have no clue. Don't know.
Well, this is a nice segue then for your experience. You've lived in a handful of different places, and you're teaching conflict resolution, or you've learned it, and you're running this program. So with a lot of the upsides you've had, assuming that there's some failures that probably came along with it, even just in life in general. So as the question sort of states, what's one of the larger failures that you've experienced, and what were you able to learn from it, whether it be personal, professional, or just on a social level?
I don't know. The thing that comes to mind with failure is I'm struggling with, I think I told you this in the past. I live in a country where the cost of living is really high and the salaries are really low. And what bothers me at this age, I'm 51, is how am I going to survive on what I'm making? There's no way I can live on. I don't own a house. I don't have a car. There's no way I can do it. So what bothers me is or maybe I don't know if it's a failure. So, but I went into this world thinking I'm going to do my passion. I'm going to do something creative and interesting in my life. And maybe the rest of my family, who kept saying, no, you need to be in business. You need to be doing something really stable. You need to be making money. Part of me thinks maybe they were right, because if I lived in Canada and still worked for the Canadian government, which is what I used to do, I would have more money in the bank, and more stability when it comes to thinking about my old age. Right now, I feel like I'm kind of screwed, basically. So I don't know if that's a failure. On the other hand, I could always move back to Canada. I mean, my sister constantly says, "Why aren't you moving back? You're an idiot. Why are you living there?" But I know I would be really bored. So it's, I'm weighing having an interesting life and an exciting life, or a more exciting life. I mean, I just today went to Haifa to film and do some work. I'm going to the West Bank next week. What am I, in Canada, what am I going to do? I get great takeout food and shopping at Best Buy and Costco would be terrific, because I love, stuff, but I would be bored. Very bored.
Yeah, a lot of Canadians right now are saying, "What are you doing?" But no, it's
I'm crazy.
Yeah, and it's fine. I mean, really, with Tel Aviv and just Israel in general, there's so much proximity, right? Proximity is power, and you have more of an interesting life to what you define that as, and it's coming down to like, what are you valuing? What does success look like to you? And things like that.
So what I learned is, and it's hard to apply to myself, but I would say if you're going to follow a passion, have a backup where you have enough money to live a comfortable life. So I wish I had, when I was younger, or been better at something like the stock market, doing something in my spare time that could make me some extra money that would make me feel more secure, and then follow my passion of, let's say, filming, asking really horrible questions to Israelis and Palestinians, or working in something to do with conflict, which doesn't really pay very well. That's for me. Some people, I know people who don't, they don't mind their whole lives living in a one-room apartment. That's where I live. To me, it bothers me. So I wish what I learned is, I wish I had developed a skill that kept a foot in the other place, in a place where I could make a little bit of money as well. I'm not very good at that.
Well, it's a really powerful lesson if you really think about it, because sometimes the notion is just go all in every what you believe in. That's awesome. You do still need a way to support yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the systems we live in. I mean, we still have to make a living, and we have to have money for when we're older, and
powerful. Oh, powerful lesson. I hope the listeners take this away, because that's a very powerful point.
Sure.
We'll move on to, someone who knows history like yourself and all this. Next one, a little curveball. We like to talk about coffee or tea was one of the other ones I did. Or, I mean, I'm going to stereotype here, but maybe a falafel or some hummus with pita.
No, coffee. Coffee is
That's
supreme.
coffee? Okay. Yeah, no, that's
Always
actually true as
coffee.
well. Right. With a historical figure, someone who, let's say, is no longer alive and that's had some kind of influence or that's just really resonated with you. Who would that person be, and what would you want to talk about?
I don't know. Part of me would want to know if biblical figures existed, because I don't
Mm,
really believe in God, or
mm,
that what happened in the Bible was real.
mhm,
But I like to know. I like knowledge, so I would love to know, because I'm connected to the story of this place, and part of the story of this place is the Bible. That's the Hebrew Bible.
mm,
Um, and I would like to know if those things actually happened. So I don't think it's having coffee, but I would like to have my cup of latte, my strong latte, and just go back in time to see Abraham, Isaac, Moses, Joshua, just to like observe what's going on. I'd
mm,
like to just be, standing there with my coffee, having a drink, seeing what's going on. What do they look like? What did their language sound like? Did they exist? That sort of thing.
mm, mm,
Now,
yeah.
to have actual coffee with a historical figure.
Could be more than one. Which one resonates with you well?
The only one I'm not one with like historical figures or having heroes. I never was, but I
Mm,
saw this movie in the '90s called Mountains of the Moon, which was about Burton. What was his first name? He was an
Tim.
explorer.
Oh no, I'm totally wrong.
No,
I'm
that's
totally
Tim
wrong.
Burton's a director.
That's totally wrong. My bad.
Crap. He has the same name as a famous actor as well, but he's not
Mm, mm,
Burton. Anyways, doesn't matter. Mountains of the Moon. He was an English explorer in the late 1700s, early 1800s, who discovered, I put it in quotes,
mm,
the source of the Nile. And what I loved about him is that he was fearless. He pretended to be a Muslim, or maybe he was a Muslim, in the sense that he would pray with Muslims, and he was part of their community as an anthropologist, though. He was bisexual. I thought that was so cool that somebody was like out bisexual in 17
yeah, I
whatever.
mean, that's so rare.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Just I loved his. I like people who have courage to be different in a way that's where they don't really care. That's my sister. Where they don't really care what other people think. I like that.
Mm,
I'm part of me is a little bit like that. Let me turn
mm,
this off. Part of me is a little bit like that, but I wish I had been more as when I was younger.
mm,
Because really, as you get older, you realize that all these fears you have of people judging you, and none of it matters. I mean,
mm.
that's a good thing about getting older. That could be one of my lessons learned. You could throw
That's one
that
of the
in.
lessons.
As
Okay,
you
so not
get
yeah.
40, you stop caring. You just don't care. And I wish I had known that earlier. So he would be an interesting person to know if that was true. Is that just because of the movie I saw? I don't know. He would be
Mm.
an interesting person to.
Yeah, like you're saying someone you said 17th century or 1700s?
Let me 1700s.
Okay,
So let me
1700s. Yeah, yeah, no.
Burton Mountains of. I'm bad. I have a terrible.
No, no worries. It's good you're
Richard
doing that.
Burton, and
Yeah.
let's see. He lived. No, Richard Burton.
Mm,
And by the way, there was a famous actor, Richard Burton, who was married to Elizabeth Taylor. So that's not the same one.
okay.
Richard Burton, explorer. Anyways, you can go on. I'll look. I'll look
Yeah,
on.
no, I wanna add it
This
on
is
the
why I
bottom.
love Google.
Yeah.
Google is the
No,
best.
it's just the best. It's just the best.
1800s,
1800s.
1840s, 1860s. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
British explorer. Okay, that's it.
No, and incredible, and that advice again, definitely duly noted. And it's crazy how much we do care about what other people think, and in some sense, it is crucial for society to kind of function. We need to have good relationships and our reputation,
Yeah,
but when it limits us and prevents us from taking action and just doing what we really want,
yeah.
it can be problematic for
Yeah, you
sure.
can't be a total sociopath, mostly with the people you care about and the
Yeah.
people you depend on. But not caring what people you barely know think
Uh-huh.
um, I think, is a wise path, as long as obviously within limits. But yeah, I
Mm,
think in general, mostly Western I think people, no, actually, I can't even say that. I think people everywhere, I mean, each culture picks and chooses what they care about, but they care much too much about what other people think.
Corey, you're preaching. I like it. I like it. It's a great point, and we definitely need more of that. So you sort of already answered this one. Then the next one we try to talk about is a book or movie or podcast. 3 of 1 each, or multiple, however you like to go. In your 51 young years of life, what are some that you've resonated with that have really connected? The one you had just mentioned, I'm going to put below in the description. But a book, movie, or podcast, something along these lines that helped shape or inspire or influence Sir Corey in his life.
That influence. That's a different question. I was looking up the name of. Oh, here it is. Side by Side. So I don't know if this influenced me, but it was helpful. So because what I do is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I would say the book I most recommend about that is called Side by Side: Parallel Histories of Israel-Palestine. And it's super interesting in that it was an attempt by the ministries of education, Palestinian and Israeli, to create a joint narrative history. And they would meet, this is during the Oslo years in the 90s, and they would meet and discuss what would be in this book. And they couldn't agree on anything, nothing. So they decided, it's called Side by Side because they decided they're going to write an Israeli history and a Palestinian history on each side, one side of the page and the other side of the page. So,
that's
and
so cool.
Read it, some of the, let's say 1948, of course, there's pages and pages about it. There's some overlap in what's important to each side. And then suddenly the Palestinian side focuses on something the Israeli side does not focus on, and the opposite. And you see how disconnected the two sides are from each other, even in how they interpret what happened. What is the history? Not even what happened in this date. We are the freedom fighters and you are the whatever. I'm talking about they don't even use the same, they don't even go by the same occurrences, because the other, whatever happened the other side is not important to me. Whatever is important to me is not important to the other side. Sometimes it was, but most of the time it wasn't. That is interesting. And I think that's true of conflict in general. If you even take married couples, often it's similar. Each side, he said, she said, situation, they have very different stories. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is just much more complicated and a little longer. So you get lots and lots of nuances and differences. So that would be my side-by-side parallel history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Powerful. And that's one that is crucial. I'm surprised I don't know about this book, but I'm definitely going to pick it up.
Yeah, none of our lecturers actually teach from it or mention it, but I think it's brilliant.
No, incredible and super important. And anyone who wants to get a base understanding of the conflict or just the history, it's a really good starting point. Okay, cool.
Movie? I don't know. My favorite movie of all time is The Color Purple. I loved that movie.
Oh, cool.
I was young. I loved it. I like movies about redemption and adversity, and then things come together, and it was just beautiful. And a podcast, but none of this formed me, so I don't know. Well, The Color Purple.
Before podcast, we can also do maybe an interview or an interview series or something, any medium where there's a conversation and dialogue, or one person speaking.
No, nothing comes to mind. The podcast that I most enjoy is from. I keep getting.
He's a high in demand individual.
So. Not at all. Family. That counts. What is his name? John McWhorter.
Okay.
John, his podcast is called, I always forget, is called Lexicon Valley. I like linguistics. I'm a bit of a geek. So I like the way he speaks. I like really well-spoken people. I love listening to people. I used to listen to a radio show in Ottawa, which was by like a right-wing conservative guy, but just the way he spoke was just so eloquent and beautiful, and I was always so jealous. And I didn't agree with anything he said. I mean, I don't agree with his arguments in any way, but who cares? I just like the way he spoke. So and this John McWhorter is super. intelligent, and he's a geek like me that focuses on like the little nuanced things in linguistics that I love. So yeah, that I would say that. I'm not really I can't really pinpoint things that impacted me so much. Things in life impacted me, not so much books, movies, things like that.
Yeah, and I like to leave off with to end this set of questions with the podcast, because a lot of times it's not just the book or the movie, but the conversations we have, or a watch or something like that. Because really, they're just different. They're different mediums of exchanging information and ideas, and I think that's really the beauty of even conversations like this. Even though it's more interview based, it's still we're exchanging, we're kind of going back and forth and just seeing different perspectives.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and the color purple. That's a funny recommendation. I like that. That's good. For Corey, what's next in his life? Right, we have the Ask project that's going on. We have maybe a post-COVID world going on, and with Tel Aviv University, where you're still really just making a lot of impact. What's going on? What's happening next?
No definite plans. I'm always looking for other jobs to challenge myself. I was looking at a job I should go to in Abu Dhabi, which is very similar to what I do. So maybe something like that. My son is 22 and he lives in Berlin, so I'm pretty much free. And
that's funny.
So I can go anywhere.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't really have a specific plan. I am looking at all sorts of options. I want to live somewhere which is interesting and challenging, and to do something that I love doing. I know that's by the way, what I just did now is being really generalizing, like being general and not specific about what I want is actually a terrible thing. Here's a good life lesson. When in general, if you're looking for something, you got to be very specific. My problem is I'm not being specific. So I'm staying in what I'm in because I enjoy it a lot. But what I'm always looking for something more challenging to come, and when I see it, I'll say yes, that's it. And that's what happened with this job. Actually, I saw the ad and I went, oh, I'd do that. I'd love to do that. So
this reminds me of a very powerful quote that I want to pull up and share, but I'm probably gonna miss it. It's essentially to the sailor who knows not which direction he's going, no port is favorable, or no wind is favorable. One of those. But yeah, it's sort of having that idea and being a little specific and figuring out where you want to go. Because then, in essence, you kind of are shooting blind. And it's not that you're in the comfort zone and you just want to stay there. You're just not really sure, because there are opportunities. There's different places to go. And there's a handful of interesting spots as well, like you had just mentioned, to check out. But no Canada. No Canada?
Well, so I'm not saying no to Canada. It's got to be super interesting, whatever I'm doing.
Well, it'll be tough because, you've been in Israel for 25 years now?
Like 22, 23, something
22, 23, and to go back to Canada. I mean, first, I'm very biased, but the weather.
Yeah, it's awful.
I don't know. I mean,
today it's winter here, and it was 20 degrees Celsius, so that's fine. That's great.
Right. No, Tel Aviv's, the weather there it's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. Cool. Where do we got a few more here? Where can people find you? And with the Ask Project, what's good mediums?
So
where can they find you?
Just YouTube is the best. YouTube, type in Ask an Israeli or Ask a Palestinian, and it's easy to find. I'm also on Facebook, but I don't interact a lot on Facebook. That's about it. I'm not on Twitter. I hate arguing with people. I'm a little bit on Instagram. Some of the students this year are trying to get me to be more on Instagram, like to create a template. And so I started doing that, but it's a lot of work, right? I mean, I work full time and I do the project in my spare time. So, and I'm not quick on the phone. You know, some people are really good with making TikToks and they're really quick. I'm like, no, that's not me. I'm too old for that.
So no TikTok in your future?
I have an account, but I don't.
Oh, there we go.
I posted one thing. It's just not, these are not the medium. Like I do long form.
Exactly.
It's little asking questions, trying to give a little slice of what people think. It doesn't really work in Instagram so well, or in TikTok, or even in Facebook, because people don't have the patience. So
Hmm. No, that's so right. And even like you were saying with Twitter and just the arguments, is that you had to condense. I mean, sometimes they use threads, but condensing a history or a long length argument in about 140 characters or
yeah,
280.
something like that.
I haven't had Twitter in 5 years, so I have no idea
Yeah.
how it's running anymore.
I heard they extend it, but even then, I mean, I've gotten into Facebook arguments. That's actually how this project started, because people were
Oh,
arguing what Israelis think, and I was like, no, you don't understand what Israelis think, and so I said, I'm going to show you. That's the problem with any forum, any of these like sort of internet forum, Facebook, Twitter, is you're limited in what you can write, how you write it, how effective you are when you write it, how they interpret what you wrote. And it just gets to be exhausting, and it just goes back and forth. And of course, each side, the more I write my point, the more I reinforce it, because I think I'm right and I don't see your point. And it becomes, it's useless. What's the point? Of course, I want to be right about everything. So what? So, you
who
want to
doesn't?
be right about everything.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely, absolutely.
It doesn't help move us anywhere. And
Mm.
so, yes, I'll feel better if I, like that Kermit the Frog thing with the Jackie on the, frantically, I'm going to tell you what is truth. Sure, of course I want to do that, but it's not helpful. It's annoying to everyone else but the person. And it just, what's the point? So
Right.
this I found is my way. People will watch the videos and think either, oh, I can't believe they said that, or how manipulative, or how awful they are. Okay, interpret it any way you want. It's fine. It's people's opinions. They're allowed to say what they want. It is what it is. At least
Mm.
you understand. You get a sense of what people tend to think here. That's the idea.
No, you're hitting on so many good points, and really with the confirmation biases we have and the in group, like we learned during the conflict,
Yeah.
and it's what contact are you having with other people and other ideas?
Yeah.
It's once you have an idea, I talk about this in one of the earlier episodes, where one of the strongest, or maybe the strongest, desire for human beings is to remain consistent with the identities that they have with themselves or what they
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And deviation from that, like when someone is challenging you or you're challenging yourself, the amygdala in your brain, which is responsible for fight or flight mainly, it actually lights up. It's the same sort of area, and it's so troubling. And what you're doing with that, it's needed, really.
Yeah, and one of the great things about this is a little thing I didn't realize, but what I learned is
Yeah.
when I have the camera, I don't have a camera here, but if I have the camera like this and I'm behind it, I don't get as emotional as I would if the camera wasn't there, because I'm focusing on to make sure the person's in the center, and I'm thinking about that. I'm still listening, but it's from behind the camera, so I'm removed. I've taken a step back, and that's helpful. So I hear Palestinians say awful things about Jews and Israelis, and it hurts me. And I hear Israelis say awful things about Palestinians. It hurts me. But because I'm behind the camera, somehow it doesn't affect me in the same way.
Hmm.
So if I was having the actual conversation without the camera, I would get much more defensive,
Hmm.
much more fight or flight, of wanting
Right.
to like defend. How dare you? That sort of thing. But something about I'm thinking, no, I'm presenting this to people in the world. What would somebody watching want to know? It just puts me just like I'm a little further removed. I don't get as emotional, and that's really helpful. That's helpful, I think, in conflict in general. If you can
Okay.
treat conflicts in a way that you're just a little bit removed,
Hmm.
I
Yeah, it's
find it helpful.
no, it's incredible, and it's for myself, I was able to do the mediation and the training within the program that you run and organize,
Mhm.
and it's incredible to think that with others, it seems that with myself, I'm able to mitigate and mediate and really just do so incredibly well.
Yeah.
However, that's usually because I'm not in the main focus. And with
Yes.
family, who they're probably going to listen to this, and it's fine. I love them very much,
Yeah.
and sometimes they'll say, "Don't you have a degree in mediation? Don't you know conflict? What are you doing?" I said, "Yes, when you're in it, it's hard. It's hard to
Different.
get yourself
Yes.
out of it."
Yeah.
And it's not a science, it's an art. Or it's a
Yeah.
little bit of both, but there's an art form to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I don't know if this happens to you, but there are many times, like, because I get into arguments all the time. Israelis and Palestinians love to argue about everything, right? And I get into arguments with people like daily. Like it can happen 5 times a day, 10 times a day, right? I'm arguing with people on the bus, yelling, screaming, whatever. And as I'm saying things, a voice in my head is saying, Corey, no. That's the wrong thing to do. What you should be doing is, being more charming or understanding. They're coming from a place of anger. Is all these things we tell, I would give advice to someone else. You think I do them? Of course not.
Of course not.
Because we're in that moment of anger and passion and how dare they? And, it's a very strong person who can actually take themselves out of it and see it has really because really in the end it really has nothing to do with you. The person on the street, some guy just tried to almost knock me over today when I was hours ago, and I got mad. And really, the guy's a little bit. There's something wrong with him. It's him. It's not me. Why we even get angry? Why would I get angry because he's had a bad day? What's the point? Incredible. But of course, it made me angry.
No, absolutely, and that's really we don't know what happened to that person 5 minutes before that, an hour before that, 3 hours before that, or what their perception is. Okay. And again, it comes down to what can we control, what can we do, and seeing it from a place where, in their mind, there's probably a need that they're trying to meet, right? Maybe I don't know why he pushed you out of the way, or just even something that happens to any of us. Maybe that person felt unsafe in their mind. In your mind, wait, this is so different, and it's just finding that middle ground. And there's an incredible concept. I just want to recommend it here for listeners as well as you. Like you're saying, the person's in an emotional state. What I've learned as well is whenever you're trying to share an idea or connect with someone or speak with them, you really have to have some kind of connection and check their emotional state. So there's an incredible psychologist, I can't talk right now, Jonathan Haidt from NYU, and he writes this in one of his books called How Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion. Incredible book. And one of the 3 ideas he has is that intuitions come first and strategic reasoning second. So just like you're saying, it's purely really how you intuitively feel. Because you can, if I'm trying to tell you that 3 + 3 = 6, and if you're in such an intense state that you're against or you're just hostile towards me, you may know that's a fact, but you're going to entrench yourself and get deeper in it. And I'm sure you've seen it. You do these questions and you're speaking with different people. It's a tough cookie. Really tough cookie.
No, absolutely. And we all do it.
We all do
None
it.
of us are immune. Even the guy, Jonathan Haidt, what was his name?
Oh, Jonathan Haidt,
I'm sure he does it too. All the time.
That's so right. That's so right.
We fall into our own traps, even if
it's
we know
incredible.
It. All the time. We're humans. That's
no, we're humans. We're flawed, and the first step is realizing it and then doing what we can to.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I can really ask from people is to sort of have some awareness of what's going on. That's
powerful. Yeah, awareness.
And hopefully, we move on and get better. That's all.
Right. And like before, like even with the failure thing, just going back to that real quick, it's you really only fail if you don't learn something from it or if you repeat it. That thing you've done.
True. That's true because I don't think I repeat failures.
Then
that's why I don't focus on either.
That's big time. That's big time. Well, we're getting a little closer to the hour, or 30, 40 minutes, however long we're in. But just 2 last bits. This part, just a little gratitude I want to give to Mr. Corey. Thank you for your mission to learn about people and their conflicts and different ways to just improve your knowledge, as you said, hungry for knowledge and just wanting to know more and how to be effective. As well, thank you for organizing and running the program so well when I was there. I know there are other students in the decade that you've been there who have come out of it incredible, and I'm sure I speak on their behalf just saying thank you, and just the work you do, the commitment, and the desire to bridge unbridgeable gaps. I think it's incredibly.
Thank you for having me on this podcast.
Yeah.
Great.
No, I'm happy you're on here, and
I'm glad you are students. I remember interviewing.
There we go. Hey, I'm always learning, always ready to take it in. And with the last bit, we call this the nugget of wisdom, right? Okay. To elevate like Zous. So like we talked about before we made the episode, the idea of Zous is really just going from a place of ignorance and weakness, maybe, or challenge, and finding a way to become the best version of yourself, or an individual that is more adept and aware of what's going on within life, with themselves and with others. So just to conclude it is, what is a nugget of wisdom that you can give or you'd like to conclude on that would help others or has even helped yourself really get to that spot, or at least begin the journey to get to that spot? What would you say? And it's a deeper one, so no rush.
Okay. So by the way, just for the viewer or the listener,
Sure.
Bruce sent me all the things he was going to talk about, and I said, nope, I want to be surprised. And now I feel like, well, that was a dumb idea because I got to find a
Well,
nugget.
we'll have you on again later, and it's good. So it's good getting a response intuitively. It's sometimes it's a little more natural, but the next
Nugget
one,
of wisdom. Okay, focus me on what? Like,
nugget of wisdom. So some of the other questions I had in the template I had sent, which is fine, it doesn't really matter, but it's something that, like you said, realizing when you were younger, with maybe having a side endeavor to make money or to have yourself stable, or just something that you've realized that has been consistent in your life, that either by doing it frequently you've improved the quality of your life, or by not doing it you've realized that it's led you to suffer unnecessarily, something like that.
I don't know. I'm not.
Mm.
Nothing is coming to mind because
Mm.
I've lots of little nuggets of wisdom here and there, but I can't. Nothing.
You gave a handful yeah, you gave a
I
handful earlier,
do.
so it's sort of it's
Yeah,
condensing
yeah, it's true.
into
So yeah, I
one.
gave you everything. No, no, no. I have others, obviously, but
Absolutely.
what have I learned that would help elevate?
One
Um,
it could be one or two if
well,
there's 3
well,
at a
the one
time.
I said, I definitely keep going back to. One of the things I think is, as you get older, not caring what people think. Like, there's a reason
Mm.
old people say inappropriate things, and
Right.
it's brilliant. Young people don't care about what you look like or what you seem like as much. I mean,
Mm.
obviously, it doesn't mean don't shower, and you have to care a little bit,
Sometimes,
but
sometimes.
sometimes you have to care a little bit. But don't care as much. Don't care in the way that it holds you back,
Mm.
um, or that holds you back in any way.
Mm. No,
Speak
it's a
to the
powerful point.
class and say what you want, and okay. So if you sound dumb, it's okay. It's not a big
Right,
deal.
it's yeah, it sounds
We all
if I
sound dumb
could.
a lot, so don't worry.
Oh, for sure, and it sounds, just maybe solidify that is, maybe like the fear of failure or just the fear
Yeah.
of judgment of others, or that you're not enough, you're not loved, or one of those.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's something that we in North America have a lot of this. Yes, this fear of what if I
Mm.
fail, what? Just try, always try, always.
Mm.
That's what I told me. Actually, that okay. Here's another nugget.
Hey,
So
you got
just
some
like
money. You see, you
similar
got
in
some
my
money.
here, it hit
It
me.
flows.
Um,
Well, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
so one of the things about my project that film people hate is that I have well, I started off with $180 camera. It's now a $300 camera, meaning it's a simple camera. I could use my phone, really. You could. I just like the camera. It's a little bit better sound. Film people hate that I'm not using a professional camera and that I'm not mic'd, that people aren't mic'd in this. It's not great sound. But my whole thing is you're stopping people on the street. They have, in the Middle East, they have no patience. I have a minute to convince them. If I started setting things up, there's no way they would ever agree. It just wouldn't happen. But just as another example, when I used to bike, when I lived in Canada, I would bike to work every day, which was like 14 kilometers each way. It was far. I never bought bike equipment. My bike was a cheap bike. It would break down all the time. I never had I didn't even have a helmet. Okay, so my sister was really mad at me
Oh,
for that.
no.
But I never bought the biking outfit. I'm like, because I care about the actual pedaling. I don't care about what I look like. And I would say in general, just as a lesson, and I didn't do it on purpose. It wasn't like
Right.
it wasn't, I didn't go into this thinking I'm going to show them. I was just lazy and cheap. But that's true of the filming too, in a sense. I think if you're following a dream, do it in a way that works for you and don't care about all the frills that come with it. So if you want to go out and do an Ask project in the US, just do it on your phone. Just try it. You don't need to invest in lots of equipment. If you find you want the equipment after, great, terrific. But I find people will focus on the wrong thing. They'll go out, they'll buy $1,000 camera, they'll go buy a boom mic, they'll go buy all this stuff to start it. And I have a friend who actually wants to do something, not exactly what I do, but something similar about religion. And I said, just use what you have. Use your phone. Who cares? It doesn't matter. No one is thinking, other than the film people, because film people still write me and say, your lighting is terrible, your sound is awful. I know. But regular people don't pick up on it, and it really doesn't matter. What matters is the content and what you're doing. So I
Mm.
think apply that to anything else you want to do. Try to accomplish what you want to accomplish. You don't have to worry about all the other frills.
Mm. Powerful. So then follow the dream and don't necessarily focus so much on the
All the things you think have to go with it. Try it out first. If you find you really do need that great camera because it gives you some added bonus, terrific, great, go out and buy it. But just first start with something.
Yeah, the journey of a million miles begins with a single step, I think.
Yeah.
One of those quotes.
Or try if you like it, because you might find out that you started something and you this isn't for
Exactly.
me. So
Yeah.
you just got to try and not care about all the, you know, you don't, if you want to go, if you decide you're going to bike, you don't have to go out and buy all the, you know, the tight, whatever that material is.
All
I don't know
the
what
stuff.
it is.
Right.
Yeah, that you don't have to do that. Just try biking. If you find what you're wearing isn't, you know, it's not good for it, terrific. Go out and buy something for it.
Well said.
That
Well
would be
said.
my advice.
Okay, spot on. I think that's a perfect spot to sort of wrap us up on. Guys, we had Corey Gil-Shuster. Thank you for coming on again. Absolute pleasure. And I look forward to hopefully when I'm back in Israel to do
Yes,
another Ask Project with you
absolutely.
and just really get the ball rolling. And just thank you again for taking the time. And as always, a pleasure to speak with you.
Happy to be here. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I'm gonna conclude this one here and we'll chat after. Let me just save this one. All right.